the very beginning, there was some contention between the port and the port tenants that needed to be alleviated.
It was relatively adversarial working with the port in the years that when I first started.
We couldn't even get a list of the tenants who existed back in 1988, 89. Everyone had their separate issues. They were moving in different directions. The port itself was unified, but that worked against us in certain cases.
Revenues for tenants was stagnant and actually going down, which means port revenues were stagnant and going down. And the reason is that the real estate policy that existed at the time was broken.
So we felt if we could gather the collective interest of all of the various tenants and all of their various interests in one unified group, it would be a very good thing.
I look back at the past and with a lot of pride that Ray Carpenter and myself had the opportunity of forming the association.
The association was started because of the fact that we needed to be unified as businesses in and around the waterfront so that we could end up in a position that we had commonality with our leases, and the leases included environmental clauses, rent clauses, and every other type of clause that was in the port.
There was progress right from the get-go.
The revision of real estate policy protected the legitimate interests of both the port as the landlord and the tenants as the lessees.
There was new type of communication, working with the port in a more of a collective group. But we're a very diverse group too, and yet we have this commonality of what happens along the tidelands. There are common issues because it is state lands, because it is on the water, the environmental, everything that goes with it.
We wanted to be in a position that we were treated uniformly. One tenant was not treated different than another tenant, which prior to the forming of the association was the case.
Sometimes it can be overwhelming to go into the port with maybe just an issue with your lease, or maybe an issue with something that's going on in the tidelands in general. But if you go in as an association, it's not near as intimidating.
With the organization, we've had an opportunity to understand the issues better, whether it be environmental or it's land use issues, whatever they could be. And then share those ideas with port officials in order to come to some conclusions that make sense for business and for the community, frankly.
It really was a very intelligent thing to do, was to create this association so that we had some standing with the port staff and port commissioners. And since then it's grown into a voice that is heard at the port, and for the most part I think we work very well with the port, and I think they're just as happy to have an association like this, where sort of a one-stop shop that they can go to for certain issues.
It really gives the tenants a unified voice. It also, we've seen a number of instances where folks that might normally be in competition actually come together to look at policies that will benefit the industry, will benefit the region, and we've got active discourse, and we can argue and battle points out between us.
After a few years of existence, it was recognized that the port tenants played an important role. We pursued the attitude that what we were doing worked for the benefit of the port and for the tenants and for the region, because it is a regional entity.
As you can see, in the 25 years that have evolved, the Port Tenants Association is very well respected, very well regarded by port staff, by the commissioners.
Since we've really organized, and by that I mean by bringing in some great staff, and we've created this relationship with our landlord that's so important, that now we have an environment that is really healthy for business.
Of all the groups that I belong to, this is the most diverse group I belong to. So You know, you got NASCO, and then you have a small deli, you have big hotels, you have restaurants, you have industrial, you have hospitality, and yet we all come together as one on these big issues that are so important to our survival.
Many of us, we live in the community. We have families here, and we want our local economy to work.
The port is the reason San Diego is here. The port is the reason that the growth is focused in this area.
All of the tenants need to be treated as economic generators for the port.
But I think that if you look at the overall, what the port has as far as a business base, it's got a large number of employees, and the employees that typically work in and around port businesses are fairly well paid. That has a multiplier effect in the community.
Part of the balance is that you need the jobs to support the quality of life. And while you need hotels, you need restaurants, you also need the shipbuilding and the maritime aspect.
The chain of revenue that is stimulated by the ship repair industry, basically, in the end, it amounts to almost 30% of the gross regional product for the region.
We've run economic models. The dollars that they invest within our own company has a 7-fold multiplier within the community. So if a yacht comes in and works in our facility and spends $1 million, typically it'll generate $7 million worth of additional revenues in and around the greater San Diego area.
When you consider that the Navy wouldn't be here without a robust ship repair and cargo capability along the waterfront, it's absolutely essential that those businesses exist.
What happens on the port tidelands, and then the additional jobs that happen off tidelands as a result of port activities, starting with the Navy, is huge.
I think under the Tidelands Act, we have to protect them, but for the regional economy, we must protect those working waterfront jobs. They are the nexus to the Navy. That's what keeps the Navy here. And where would San Diego be without the Navy?
That portion of the tenant base actually enables the presence of the Navy, the fleet to be maintained within San Diego Harbor. That in turn allows for a number of other off-tidelands contractors, industrial facilities, support subcontractors to thrive that wouldn't exist without that key component, the industrial component.
Having this harmonious existence between hospitality, between retail, between industry is paramount in ensuring the long-term success of the port.
We have to do, all of us have to do, and I'm a hospitality tenant, but I tried to work closely with the working waterfront tenants because we have to protect those tidelands for industrial uses.
For those of us who are in hospitality, some of the most exciting things that guests see here on the port is, frankly, is the shipbuilding, the Navy, the working port. It's of interest. In our business, my business, we work in many different ports where you don't get to see that. It all is condos and things on the waterline, which people can see anywhere. A working port really needs to have all of the pieces working together.
You know, I own a marina, which is small potatoes compared to some of these big shipyards, but I support what they're doing. It's very important to have a balanced port because when one sector is down, the other can be up, and therefore we don't go through these huge swings in the port. And that's important for keeping a consistent revenue coming into the port and keeping our bay healthy.
You have to keep the balance, and the balance is shipping, the balance is all water oriented, it's shipyards, it's industrial activities, it's all water dependent businesses. And those businesses and that property that exists today has got to be protected now and into the future.
For those of us who have been in Port Tenants for a long time, the landscape around us continually changes. There's no arrival. You don't get there because what happens? Communities change. politicians change, policies of the state and federal government change. All of these things have a big impact on us. And one of the things that we know is that we'll always be needed and always need to be around because of the changes, and because we'll always have to re-educate or be the keeper of the flame for some of the things that we know, that we can then reteach and reacquaint with the changing administrations that we deal with.
I salute all of the port tenants for working together with the port. It's not easy. I've always wanted to have the port look at it from our perspective. Hopefully with the port tenants working together in the future, they will come around a little bit to see our side of the story.
I congratulate the Port Tenants on holding together for 25 years. I think it's phenomenal that the association was originally formed. It's well respected in the community, and it's going to have a long and fruitful life, and it's going to help all these tenants that are going to stay on the waterfront deal with leases and property rights, environmental issues, and all the myriad of things that are difficult in the environment we live in. My name is Art Engel, and I am the Port.
I am Kip Howard.
My name's Jim Unger.
My name is Bill Hall.
I'm Sandy Purdon.
We are the Konakai.
And we are the Port.
We are the Valley High.
We are the Port.
We are RE State.
We are NASCO.
We're Nielsen Beaumont, and we are the Port.
We are Sport Fishing.
And I am the Port.
And I am the Port.
And I am the Port.
I'm Sandy Purdon, and I am the Port.
We are the Port.